Hello and welcome to everybody on Cloud Fitness. So today's video is in continuation to Azure Synapse Analytics Play series, and this is part 7. In today's video, we are going to see how we can visualize the data using Azure Synapse Studio notebooks. So let's go ahead to the portal and see how we can do that. So in this particular demo, we are going to use Azure Open Dataset. So this dataset is basically New York taxi dataset. It has information related to your start time, end time of the trip, your details about the trip, the location, the cost, and other interesting attributes. And we are actually going to use these attributes to play around the tips that are paid, right? We are going to see which factors actually yield higher taxi trips. So for this, I have actually, because we are going to visualize it, we are going to plot it, I have also used matplot and Seaborn for the plotting various metrics that we have. That is the reason in the first cell I am just trying to import matplot and the Seaborn. Along with that, since these are more compatible with the pandas data frame, that is why I am importing pandas. So let's go ahead and run the first cells, and remember I am using PySpark over here and I am using serverless Apache Spark pool. So let's go ahead and run this, and details related to your Apache Spark pools and the notebooks I have already explained them in my previous video, so I do recommend watching them before moving on to this one. So in the meantime, this is running. Let me zoom in so that you have a better view on the screen. Yeah. So by the time above cell is running, I'll quickly go ahead and explain you the second cell. So I'm using Azure ML because from here, this is basically, this actually provides you the set of APIs from where you can consume your Azure open data sets. I have also commented all the points, all the things that I feel people might need. Apart from that, I'm simply using datetime, and for parsing, I'm using parser. Now, since I'm using a particular time, start time and end time for the data set, that is why I have mentioned this. And after that, I have created a data frame out of my data set that I have imported. I have imported New York taxi yellow. So basically the yellow taxi data set, and I'm just creating a data frame out of it in the second cell. Now, if we go down, by the time above cell is running, I'm only trying to pick up selective columns from my data set because my data set is huge. I have a lot of columns inside my data set, so I'm only, yeah, so there you go. So I'm only trying to pick up few columns which I might require for my analysis. I'm picking up from that data frame, I'm picking up my vendor ID, I'm picking up my passenger count, trip distance, payment type, fare amount, tip amount, which I actually need, on which we are doing the analysis. We need the date, and after that we are filtering the data set basically because we don't want to have any nulls in our data, and that is the reason we are actually trying to only get the data set with in which passenger count is greater than 0, your tip amount is greater than 0, your fare amount is at least greater than 1 or less than 250. So this is just the filtration part of it, and then again I'm trying to create a temp view out of my data frame, which is taxi dataset. I have also explained this temp regarding this temp view in my series on Databricks, which relates to PySpark mostly. So you can go ahead and check that out in case you need it. So I think my pool is ready, and this has actually run already. So let's go ahead and run our first cell, a second cell as well, which is trying to create a data frame. So now your second cell has also executed. Now let's go ahead and run the third cell in which I'm trying to create a filtered data frame where I'm just trying to selectively pick up the columns. And then let's go ahead and see what we have in the fifth cell. Now when I talk about this, if I want to do or if I want to check how my trip amount is varying, what is the minimum, what is the maximum, what is the average trip amount based on a day of a month. So I'm just using a simple SQL query. and this is the magic command %% I'm just doing a select on the day of the month, and I'm trying to find minimum maximum average of my tip amount and the fare amount, and I'm just trying to group by on date of month. So let's go ahead and run the cell as well. So now you can see the output of the query. If you go down, you can see here the day of the month. For the first date, what was the minimum tip amount that was given? What was the maximum tip amount that was given? What was the average tip amount for all the trips that happened on first of the month? And what was the average fare amount, right? And if you want, so we have an option of viewing this data in chart. So this is by default. If you go ahead and click on this chart option, you will actually see that it has average, minimum tip amount and the day of the month for for the query that we have run. So this is one option. Apart from that, you also have the default libraries which you can use to visualize the data. In this, we are already using Matplotlib as well as Seaborn to visualize the data, which are actually very common libraries when you talk about visualization. So now before moving on, we actually see the data is huge. We have huge amount of data, right? So we just want to sample the data. So my command 18 over here, this cell basically is only to sample out the data. I am using the built-in function. So sample is the built-in Python function which you can use to get a sample of the data, where you can have a seed, where you can have a fraction. So this fraction point 001 basically it demonstrates the fraction of the data which you want to sample. It doesn't necessarily give you exact, but yeah, it will give you a nearby fraction to the number which you specify here. So this number has to be from 0 to 1. And when you talk about the seed is basically if you run the sample n number of times, you might get different results set, different samples. So to fix a particular sample, you have to give a seed. So if I change the seed and I run it, I will get a different sample set. If I use the seed and run it, I'll get the same sample set again and again. So this is basically your sample which we are trying to use over here to get the sample data. And since our visualization libraries, they are they are more comfortable with the pandas data frame, that is the reason we are converting our Spark data frame to pandas data frame using two pandas, right? So let's go ahead and run this cell as well. So now let's go ahead and visualize our data frame. So this is the data frame that we have created, sample taxi pandas data frame, PD data frame. So I'm just trying to have a show over, have a show over the data frame that we have created. So let's go ahead and now here we go. So this is the data frame that we have created and we have converted into pandas data frame. So this is the Spark data frame and we have converted into pandas data frame. Pandas data frame is PD_df. So this is how our data looks like. We have vendor ID, we have passenger count, we have trip distance, we have payment type, fare amount, tip amount, hours of the day, which week, which day of the week it was, which day of the month it was, right? And we are going to analyze this data only now. Now, if we want to understand the distribution of tip in our data set, right? What we are going to do right now here is we are going to use matplot to create a histogram. So now let's go ahead and I'll explain you what has been done here. So let's go ahead and first run this cell. So in the meantime, when this is running, let me zoom it a bit more. Yeah. So what you can do, what you can see over here, that this is the pandas data frame that I have created. On this pandas data frame, I'm trying to plot this data frame, and what kind of plot I'm trying to use. I am trying to use a histogram, right? So that is why I have mentioned here histogram, and these are nothing, just the properties for this for this visual, right? And I am trying to do it on tip amount. So now I have this ready, and then I'm just trying to set the title over here. When I talk about title, so this is the tip amount distribution which you see on the top, and similarly you have your X label and you have your Y label as count. right? And then once you have run this, you just have to do plot.show that you have created, and you can actually see the data skewness over here, right? So maximum tip amount has been, right, less than 10, right? So data skewness is below $10 over here. So this is how you can visualize the data using, matplot library as well. Now let's go ahead. Now let's say you want to analyze what is the tip amount based on the days of the week, right? In this case, we are going to use Seaborn here. I'm going to use Seaborn to show you how it is done. So let's run the cell first. Now, I have imported Seaborn as SNS, so that is the reason it is SNS over here. And then I'm trying to, this time I'm not creating a histogram, I'm using box plot on the day of the week and on the tip amount, right? And I'm using sample taxi pandas data frame which I have created, right? And then I'm just trying to set labels, and then I'm just trying to show the plot. So this is how my plot looked like for each day of the week, right? So how much was the tip amount, right? So basically tip amount distribution per day can be visualized through this box plot. So now let's go ahead and see what I have next for you. So when you look at the data, you might think that if the number of passengers are more, so maybe the tip amount is more, right? So for that, we are trying to visualize again. So let's first run this cell and I'll explain you what it is doing. So again, what it is trying to do, it is trying to use the same data frame, sample taxi data frame, trying to create a box plot out of it. Now it is trying to create box plot on tip amount and the passenger count, right? And then I'm just giving the titles, and then I'm trying to show it. Okay, so this is how you can try visualizing the data using different libraries. And in case you have any questions or you feel that I should make video on some other topic, do let me know in the comment section. So now let's go ahead and run this cell as well, where we will actually see how fair amount is linked to the tip amount, right? So whether is it like that if fair amount is more then the tip amount is more. For that we have given this scatter visual. So using the scatter visual, you can actually see that yes, when the fair amount increases, your tip amount has also considerably increased. So again, I have used this pandas data frame that we have created, and we try to plot scatter graph over here, right? And then I'm just simply trying to show it. So this is basically how we can visualize our data using Synapse notebooks. So this was what I wanted to demonstrate in this particular video. Thank you so much for being till here, and do let me know in the comment section, and do like this video. Thank you so much.